Okay, and this is the final video in this tutorial series on UV surfaces. We're going to make a box, and I'm going to reach way back in time and pull out the old animal cracker box. Now I remember this from growing up. They don't taste the same anymore, but they had a very distinctive box, and we're going to go ahead and recreate that today. Now if you're in Modeler, this is where it gets a little bit easier than usual. We're going to go ahead and create the background for the box just so we can see it. So if you hit the D button for display, you get your display options, and we're going to go to the backdrop, and for the backdrop we're going to use the lower left and the lower right fields. And so the bottom left, we're going to load an image in there, and I have the animal cracker box right here. And so for the back window, I am going to load this one. And there it is. And for the bottom right, I'm going to load this one. And so basically what I want to do is make sure that I can get the dimensions of the box without even actually having to measure it. So I'm looking at the box head on here, and there's the edge of it. And believe it or not, that's all I need. So if I zoom in on this, you'll see that the box is the same size. So therefore, if I'm going to create the box, I just go to Box, and I basically just cover that shape there, and then stretch it out to accommodate that. So if you look up here, we've got a box. And in this case, we don't even have to do anything else. It's just a simple box, and that's the way it is. So we can go right into the UV stuff. And at this point, we don't even need the background anymore. So I can go to my display options, and bottom left I can just turn that off, and bottom right I can just turn that off as well. So getting into the UV, again, what we're first going to need to do is to take the box apart. So if I go into polygon mode and I draw a box around the box, and I go into detail mode and I hit Unweld, that's all that takes. And so then, once again, we're going to make our UVs. And then once again, you go up to your top view and you turn on UV texture, and that gives you your UV texture grid. And so then, like before, we're going to go ahead and make a new UV texture. And in this case, we'll stick with planar and make sure that your settings are on manual. And what we're going to do is we're going to zero out all of these values. We're going to keep it planar, and we're going to call it animal. And we're going to leave that window open. And the first thing we want to do is put the faces of the box up there, the two most important sides. And so if you go to this window here in polygon mode and you select the first face, you can see that's where it is. And then you hold on the shift key and you select the other face. So then you go to your UV texture window. In this case, I'm going to start with the Z-axis, and I'm going to hit Create. And you see up in this window, you get a very large rectangle. So what we're going to do is we're going to size that down. And we're going to size it down in such a way that it will fit in that grid. And we're probably going to have a pretty full grid here, so we'll make that just a little bit smaller just to be sure, because all of these sides have to fit on the grid. And then we'll go ahead and turn off one of those. We'll turn off move. We're going to go ahead and turn off one of those sides. And then we'll move this one downwards. And there it is. And so, while we're at it, if we were to select this one, and hold on the shift key and select this one, this would be the edge pieces, and we were to hit the y-axis and create. That's not the right one. You can see it just comes in as a line there. Try the x-axis. There we go. So the x-axis gives us the appropriate shape. And so for this one, we know that that height there is the same as that height there. So if we size that down, and we move it, we should be able to line those up. And there we go. Then turn off move, turn off one of them, move again, and there we are. Then for the final part of the exercise, we take the roof of the box, and this one too, and we hit the y-axis, and there it is. So here we're lining up the length. So if we go to size, we want to make sure that that's the right length. As you can see, we've got a little bit of a problem here in that we've run out of room. So even if we size that up correctly, we don't have room for the other one. So what we have to do is we've got to make a little bit of repair work here. And first of all, we'll go ahead and finish this part of it. So we'll take the one remaining and we'll move that down. So those are all of our pieces. We just don't have them in the right place. But what I can do is draw a box around all of this and size everything down unilaterally. And then move it up a little bit. And there it is. So that becomes the UV map for the box. And like in the previous example, one of the first things we need to do is to reestablish the box. So if we select the entire box, all sides, go to Detail and Merge Points, we'll put that box back together. You see 16 points created. The box was not very complicated. And so now all we got to do is to put in those UV surfaces. And to do that, first thing we need to do is to get a picture of this. So we go into that little corner tab area there in this upper window here and make that full screen. Then once it's full screen, we magnify it as much as possible, like so. And then we hit that print screen button on the keyboard. And then we go into Photoshop. And in Photoshop, we create a new window or a new file and just hit OK. And there we have a nice empty window. And if you would Control V, because we hit print screen, we now have a copy of the desktop right there on the window. And then we just take our marquee tool and we highlight only the relevant portion, which is that grid, go to an image and crop, and there it is. So that is the grid that we want. So then if we look at our possible files here, you can see that we have the different parts of the box. And so I'm going to grab this one. So this is the back of the box. I'm going to open that. And there is my animal cracker box. And so all you got to do to make one of these is to put it on the scanner and scan it. Now it's a little bit of problem scanning. You may see a herringbone pattern there because scanners sometimes don't like things printed on offset press. But let's go with it anyway. So if I select the back of the box and copy it, then go back to this and paste it. In this case, the box was scanned at very high resolution to get rid of that herringbone pattern, so we're going to have to bring it down some. So we're going to scale it down. I'm just going to hold on the Shift key, scale that down, bring it back up here, scale it down again, bring it back up here, and that's close enough to work with. So then once again, all we have to do is to get it close. Then we literally stretch it out onto the UV so that it completely covers that image. So then we open up the front, which would be this one. And in this case, in order to use that, we've got to flip it. So we go to Image, Rotate Image by 90 degrees, and there we go. And then all we got to do is select it, or hit Control A, copy it, go back to Untitled, and paste it. And that's big once again. So we'll go ahead and transform that down. And we'll move that over here. And we'll go ahead and line that up. And that should be close. And there we are. So then, for the top and bottom, go to the top. And that would be rotate the image clockwise. And here we're going to make sure that we cut out that little black area there. And paste that in there. And hit enter. And next one. And that's the bottom of the box. there we have it there. And the last two, this will be that edge, edge A. That there, and the final edge. And there we have the UV map. So we're going to save that. And we're going to save that as a JPEG. And we're going to call this animal underscore UV. And we'll save it at maximum resolution. Then, if we go back to here, we can go ahead and bring that back down to size and take that back to the top view in case we need that for something. We're going to save this object, and we're just going to call that animal, and we're going to send that to layout. There's our box, and in the surface editor we're going to go ahead and create a UV surface, and instead of planar we're going to choose UV. We're going to load the animal map, and we're going to load the image, and in this case it's animal UV, and there it is. Okay, so if we look at this, here we can do a little bit of diagnostic work. We can see, we just use this tool to move around, we can see that the front and the back's got a problem. See that? Sides are fine. But let's talk about first problem with the back is that it's backwards. And there's another even bigger problem. That's the bottom of the box, that's the top. So how would we fix that? Well, if we go back into here, all we'd have to do to fix that is to go to the layer that has the top of the box and move it to the bottom and vice versa. So that would be this layer. So move that over there, and for this one, I'm going to move that down there. And let's magnify in on that a little bit. Okay. And let's see if that fixed it. So if we do File, Save As, and JPEG, that will be the UV2. And we go back to our box, surface editor, and we'll just change that image to the next one, UV2, And now the box top is in the correct place. And all we got to do is fix that front label. Now there, if we were to grab one of these, and let's make sure we're grabbing the right one. So the one with the lion, if we go back here, is correct. So it can't be the one with the lion. So let's go for this one. So that may even be the very first layer we put in. If I hit the little eyeball on that, I can turn that off and on again. And what I want to do is I want to edit that layer. And I want to flip it horizontally, so it's backwards. And I happen to know that this was backwards too. So if I go up to one of these other ones, not that one, I think it may be that one. And this will be the last time. And so once again, if I invert that by loading the new image, if I load the new image, we get that. And let's see. So then if we look at it at the side, there we go. That's correct. So is that. So is that. And the bottom's there too. Okay, so then the only other thing you'd want to do with this is to give it some texture. So let's say we put in just a little bit of specularity, because cardboard isn't all that spectacular. Maybe just a little bit more. No glossiness, no reflections. Now if you go to your image, rotate, you can see that that's a pretty straightforward project. And you can see on the bottom particularly the specularity actually works. And so what you got is a box which has a unique side on each side.